Have you ever asked yourself, why am I really here? Have you longed to know your soul's true purpose, your authentic path? And what if, somewhere in southern India, a palm leaf etched with ancient script holds the story of your past, your present, and your future? Could you suspend the doubt, the logic, the disbelief of the rational mind just long enough to consider that your natal chart was written thousands of years ago, waiting for you to arrive? Welcome to Talking True. I'm your host, Julie Hoyle. In today's episode, I'm going to be diving deep into the mystical world of Nadi Leaf Readings, a sacred system of prophecy passed down by enlightened sages through the ages. I'll be sharing my own direct experience of receiving a Nadi Leaf reading, and I'm joined by the remarkable Te'Devan Kriyavan Kurzweil, who will also share his discoveries of having a reading, a Nadi Leaf reading. So stick around as we spill the tea on palm leaf prophecies and explore the ancient map of your soul's journey. This is one conversation you do not want to miss. So, hey, Te'Devan, thank you so much for joining me today on Talking True. It's really great to have you here, and I am so excited about diving into what Nadi Leaf readings are about. But what I'd love to do is I'd like to start by clarifying the difference, or if there is a difference, between Akashic readings and Nadi Leaf readings, because I think there can be some confusion. What's your view on that?
My view is it's just different ways to say the same thing. And I think ultimately it comes down to the gift of the reader. So I do think so. There are people that maybe they have the original Nadi Leaf written, but the reader that they get, or even the translator that they get, isn't that always great. And so I think that can cause some problems. Not every reader has the same gift. To me, the Akashic records and the Nadi Leaf, from my view, are the same. And this concept of Akashic records, I think within the US at least and the Western world, was really made popular by Edgar Cayce, nicknamed the Sleeping Prophet, where he would go into the minutia of people's past lives and relate it to their present life and who people were and why, and just sort of the map of their life. And furthermore, he would also within talking about all that, he really just talked about people's karmas and all of those different things. And it was interesting because if you don't know Edgar Cayce grew up a very religious Christian. So either it was his grandfather perhaps was a great mystic as well, and so that also had supernatural abilities similar to Edgar Cayce. So yeah.
Yeah.
But he made that popular, and then more recently, Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters, going into the details of your past lives and why someone is the way they are to you in your present life.
Right.
Now, as I was explained, someone says there's 4 different major types of Nadi Leaf readings written by different sages. And one other one that I'm familiar with is a bit more in the Mumbai area, which is the Book of Bhrigu. But at the end of the day, I think they all serve the same purpose. Whether they're measuring your hand size or your shadow or your thumbprint, they're able to access this information that was written many, many, many thousands of years ago, knowing that at some point in your life, you were going to want to know about your destiny and your life.
Fantastic. So just for the sake of viewers who've never heard of Nadi Leaf readings, let's just clarify what that looks like. Excuse me. And it's from my understanding, these are kind of prophecies and details about an individual's life that are written on palm leaves, like a bundle of palm leaves, right? And they're And it's said that they were written between 2,000 and 3,000 years ago, which to me is mind-boggling.
And I think some are even written older than that.
Right. And
Yeah.
then stored. They're stored in these kind of libraries. I know they're stored. There's one or two places in Tamil Nadu, I think, that in southern
And in Kerala.
in Kerala as
And
well.
then kind of a offshoot, you might want to consider it a cousin almost, the Book of Ragu, which is the same thing, a library of these prophecies that were written thousands of years ago.
Right. So, speaking from my own direct experience and yours too, because you've gone through this process, and for viewers who might be interested, what happens is you provide your thumbprint, right? So for females, you provide, I think it was six thumbprints, and for men, it's six thumbprints of your right hand. For women, it's six thumbprints of your left hand, and then using those imprints, those thumbprints, then these experts, I don't know what you call them, leaf readers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be passed down as like a familial lineage thing from father to son or sons, and they, keep up this tradition.
Right. And then what happens is they start searching through the library to find the bundle that links to your particular thumbprint. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I understand it. Now, one of the things that one of my friends' readings helped me consider. So
Mm-hmm.
when they were doing her Nadi Leaf reading, they go, "Do you have metal in your left leg?" And she goes, "Yes." This is during, they haven't found her leaf yet. This is them looking through the bundles. And they go, "Is it still there?" And she goes, "No." And they go, "Oh, well, it's not this leaf then."
Yeah.
And that really, it was interesting to me because I thought to myself, wait, they knew that she had metal in the leg, but then they asked if it's still there. And then she said no. So what I thought that means, and this is my interpretation, is that we have some wiggle room of some different timelines. And so when they're going through your Nadi Leaf readings, more so than they're trying to figure out if it's you or this other person, they're trying to figure out which timeline you chose. Now
Yeah.
that's speculation on my part, but it just made sense for me in
Yes.
that was my friend's experience. The other possibility, though it's not the one I subscribe to, is that there are people who have karma so similar to yours, because there are a lot of people that they're also filtering through that. So that's another. I offer both up, but to me, the first one makes more sense.
Yes. And again, for clarification for those people who might be interested in having a Nadi Leaf reading, what happens is you have to allocate between 2 and 3 hours, right? And it's done via Zoom. And when I did it, the first, I'd say 30 minutes, I think at least it was, they had a bundle of the leaves, and the the expert
The
was,
Naughty Leaf Reader. The
yeah, the
Naughty Leaf
Nadi Leaf
Reader.
reader was
Yeah.
chanting. He was chanting this. I think it was Tamil,
Yeah,
and
it's ancient. It's ancient Tamil, though. I don't think it's
oh
like a reg. Yeah, I don't think it's a regular kind of Tamil dialect that people would know. I'm speculating, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
yeah. So anyway, he was chanting from this bundle of. He did it one by one, chanting from these bundle of leaves, and with each leaf he would chant, and and then it would be translated into English. I would be given the information, and then all I had to say was correct or wrong. So, for example, they may say something like, your birthday is between, or your birth month is between February and March. So I would say correct or wrong. And if it was wrong, they would discard that leaf and then move on to the second one. So it's a kind of a process of elimination, is the way I'd put it, right?
Yeah,
Until they get the specific leaf that relates accurately to your kind of
definitely.
story.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so my reading was, I think one of the first things that will impress you is they'll get your mom and dad's name, regardless of what country you're from. Because I've had friends from Lithuania to all parts of the world get one, and they knew their mom and dad's name. And
Yes.
then they'll go into particular family dynamics. They'll know about specific events that are going on in your life right now. And they'll also give you a future, hey, this is what's coming. Now, that seems to have some wiggle room. I subscribe to the idea that I've read there's three types of karma: a karma that's fixed, can't be changed; a karma that can be mitigated, but still has to be, you have to go through; and some karmas that can just be outright dissolved. And the reality is only the wisest of wise know which karma's which. But they do give you some remedies to mitigate or hopefully eradicate some of the less positive karmas that they tell you about in your reading.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I found really intriguing was with respect to health. So, that came in the last phase. And they were speaking to me about my physical health and so on. And, essentially saying, I was in good health. There were just two areas that had some weakness, and one was in the eyes. And they said the left eye, which was accurate. And then he said some dental problems. So, it's like, okay. And then lo and behold, literally 2 weeks later, I end up having to have dental surgery, which, I've been slowly getting over. But it was really specific and also very specific. I have four brothers and a sister, and they were detailing real, specific details about what was happening with them and their ailments. And they were really on point. I mean, shockingly so, I have to say. So, yeah, and then all the information about what I've been doing, the shift of consciousness, the awakening, all of those things that happened to me several decades ago. They were detailing, and like you said, my father's name, my mother's name, which can kind of be a bit mind bending if you're not used to that kind of accuracy. It can be shocking. And it just blows the mind.
Well, that's what I was. I went in there expecting. I went in there with very high expectations. So I talked to people, so I knew the drill. And anything less than what you were describing, I would have been very disappointed. For me, I don't know that everyone's going into that with that mindset, but I was, they knew a lot of stuff. I think some of the things I found really interesting were things that I'd been told by other clairvoyants, or in one case, a yogi, and some other yogis, and they said the same thing. So I thought that was particularly interesting. And one that stood out was, they said I've changed my name twice. I have two name changes. One I use as a middle, and one as a first name, and it just depends where I am. And they knew both of those name changes. They knew what the name was before, and they prophesized that I'll have another name. And I laughed, and I was like, I'm good on names, but I'd been told by another clairvoyant that I would be given a name at some point further along in my spiritual path. And they reiterated that. Another thing that was reiterated was years ago, I met Guru Dev Brahmarishi, and he's one of the great modern yogis traveling around. And I've seen him a couple times. And he materialized a stone for me. And then he said, may Shiva give you supreme sight. And it was particularly meaningful because the last time I saw him, he materialized the same stone, but I lost it. And I prayed for him to materialize a bigger version of the same stone. And I'd been praying for perfect sight from the third eye. And my reason for it was, the way I see it, is the only reason we get upset, the only reason we get angry, is because we don't see things in their totality. We only see things through the lens of what we perceive as right and wrong, and from the lens that we understand of how we've behaved in this lifetime and how they've behaved in this lifetime. And that is very normal, and it's very human, but it is very inaccurate. It would sort of be me trying to understand how much money someone had based on how much money they did or didn't make on a Sunday. And that really gives you no clue into any of that. And so I think that's the most normal thing to do. And I'd been really praying that I wanted to see through all of that. I wanted to have perfect sight. And I went up to him, and that's what he said. And in the Nadi Leaf reading, they said, you'll see the past, present, and future of yourself and everyone you encounter at some point. That's down the line. That's not happening this month or this year, but down the line, they spoke about that, and it just took on extra meaning because this other yogi had given me the blessing for that. So I thought that was really cool to see that yogi's blessing show up in the reading.
You're not kidding. Well, I have a whole story around the whole Nadi Leaf reading, which I find fascinating. So you've been on this show before, and I'm trying to remember when it was. It was maybe 3 months ago, I think.
Yeah, we did it about my machete psychic surgery.
Yes. So the story behind that was I posted something on Threads. You left a voice message, and the minute I started hearing your voice, I knew there was this huge resonance. And I said, I got this message, you have to invite him to Talking True, which I did. We had a conversation. And then somewhere in that conversation, I don't know whether it was before or after we've stopped recording, you and I were speaking about Nadi Leaf Readings. You said, did I? You said
I forgot about it.
yeah, well, you said to me, do you know about Nadi Leaf Readings? And I said yes. And I didn't follow up with anything, after we finished the recording, I just kind of let it be because I can put my hand on my heart and say, I have not had any kind of psychic reading or Akashic reading or anything for decades. I've had this can sound whatever the word, arrogant, but I haven't needed. I had a radical reading, a radical awakening in 1989, and I have always received guidance from within. The last time I had a reading was with a psychic slash medium in, I think, the very early 80s. That's how long.
Oh, wow. That's been a minute.
That's a minute. So I just have always, if there's a question, I ask and I get the answer. However, what happened was after you and I had spoken, and I wasn't even thinking about it, but I had this message from my seed guru, Bhagavan Nityananda of Ganeshpuri, saying, you should have Nadi Leaf reading. So I was like, okay, how do I even do that? Because you and I hadn't discussed details. So then, literally 2 or 3 days later, I started to receive a flurry of emails from my friend Lisa Gunshaw, who hosts the Buddhist Biohacker platform on YouTube. And anybody who hasn't been there, I would really recommend checking her platform out. It's amazing. I've been on there several times and had discussions, conversations with Lisa. But anyway, she sent me this flurry of emails because she said, Julia, I'm having a Nadi Leaf reading right now. I'm having a break. It's amazing. I can't stop crying. This is incredible, blah, 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 blah. So that really piqued my interest. So then I wrote to her and I said, who are you doing it with? How do I get involved? And blah, blah, blah. So she sent me the details. And then literally within hours, I'd set up this, session to have a reading and started doing the thumbprints and all of those things. And so it felt like it was divinely guided by Bhagavan Nityananda of Ganeshpuri. And so because of that, and he said it was important, because of that, I really trusted ahead of time what I was going to be told. And I took it as a kind of a direct blessing darshan from him. So it's the whole thing has been really so profound, and the things that I was told in the reading really spoke to the guidance and the messages I've been given over the last, specifically over the last 2 or 3 years, about my work and about the importance of sharing these deeper truths, this deeper wisdom, and the support that we can find that is authentic. Because as we know, there's a lot of bullshit online.
Oh my God. There's so much. And then I would say there's kind of this middle category where some of it's true.
Yes.
And then some of it's BS. And I think that can be the most confusing because they're taking things that are legit and true and then twisting them and manipulating them and all of this stuff. And I think there's also a big push on, the term spiritual materialism or getting powers or getting spiritual gifts as sort of the end all be all. And though they can be incredibly beautiful and wonderful. They are little trinkets, candy
Yes.
bars, if you will,
Yes.
to get you to continue on the journey. And the deeper
Yes.
you get in your practice, the less you need or rely on them. I sort of see them at times almost as a guilty pleasure of mine. Just something that I know isn't, the end all be all, but I do appreciate them, and I still have a hankering for them and a desire for them. And I dig it. I dig
Yes.
how it sort of removes the mundaneness of the modern world that so much of us experience or feel overwhelmed by or feel not inspired by. And then you have these types of things come along and it reminds you of, oh, no, there's a much larger play taking place. And
Yes.
this, whatever challenge I'm going through, whatever obstacle in my story right now is really irrelevant. And so I would say that if I was to compare a Nadi Leaf reading to a really good psychic medium reading, typically the difference is I think a medium psychic reading might get a little more into the weeds of different people in your life right now and more of the minutia at times.
Yes.
Though they can also go into your greater life path. I've certainly had psychic mediums also inform me that this would be my last life and at some point I would become self-realized. But the Nadi Leaf reading is more about the bigger picture and less, in my experience, and less about the kind of small details. And the small details, though they will be given, they're more there just to confirm that, hey, this is legitimate. And what we're telling you is not just, something that we tell everybody. And I think
Yes.
that's my view on it.
Yes. And also I have to say, after the Nadi Leaf reading, it was like something opened up. What they told me, I felt, saw, could resonate with, could authenticate. It wasn't that I was told anything new per se, but it was like there was a mirror held up that really resonated, and it was often things that I hadn't even articulated to other people ever, right? It's just this deep soul knowing. And so what happened is there was this kind of expansion that happened after the Nadi Leaf reading that hasn't diminished since, and has been really quite profound, which is part of the reason I wanted to discuss this.
Oh,
And that I have this prompt from Bhagavan Nityananda again to come onto the channel and discuss it, and then lo and behold, you send me a message and say let's do it. So
yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a conversation I can have with most regular people, but even people in spiritually seeking orbits aren't. It's not on their radar. They don't know about it. They haven't really heard about it. I do think that when you get, from my view, if you go to a really great Vedic astrologer, someone who's really gifted, it's pretty darn similar.
yeah,
And the reality is, once again, there's not many of them. And so I just want to put this out there. Just because you hear someone's doing Nadi Leaf readings or Book of Bragu readings does not mean they're the real McCoy. And definitely, do your due diligence before getting a reading and putting your hard-earned money down on it. So I
yeah,
would also emphasize that, because I think what happens is, I know people that had pretty bogus type readings with someone somewhere, and definitely, we're using the different connection to get there, but it seems like we're basically using the same people. And I could be wrong, but did we say that we both had the same translator? Was your translator Sham, or you had someone
yes,
else? Yes.
Sean,
Yeah.
yes,
So my translator was also Sham, but
yeah,
I guess he probably translates for maybe a few. I don't know how it all works, but uh, there's like an organization that I'm connected to, and I send out referral links to people, but through your friend, and he's only going to do a couple because it was severely discounted.
yeah,
So I'm actually looking. I'm waiting for the final moment, and this might be it, to get my second reading. So I guess this is a good time to talk about it. So they give you remedies. Now, everyone's remedies will be a little bit different, but my remedies focused a lot on chanting certain mantras. And I'm sure you had this in your reading, they say which gods, deities are overlooking your life more and blessing you.
Yes.
And I was surprised that I didn't have any female deities, being that my main guru is Amma Karunamai. But at least according to their system, mine were Vishnu, Ganesha, Shiva, and Supramanyam, also known, I think, as Kartikita or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave me different mantras to do on different days. And so with doing some of this stuff, some of the stuff can shift. So I am curious to see if through doing this, I have shifted anything. For the most part, I was very happy with my reading. It was all that I could really hope for. And, I guess the only thing I could really be trying to do is make the less challenging things go quicker and make the more wonderful things come in quicker. And that would kind of be the aim. So I am curious to see what may have shifted. So I got mine in May of last year. So what we're June, July. So 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will get Nadi Leaf readings once in a lifetime, which I think is pretty normal. But some will do it once a year or once every 5 years. And I think it really comes down to you have to feel the calling of, now's the time. And there's these deeper messages for me to receive.
Yes. Yeah. What was great for me was the way it just kind of landed. I wasn't looking for it, And so if anybody, just happens upon this episode and feels this resonance, then I would say just go for it. And in the show notes, we can leave some of the information for the reputable places to go.
Yeah, I have a link that they gave me because I was really impressed by that, and they gave me a referral link. Just to be transparent, I will receive, I think, $30 if somebody uses my referral link. Their other one out there that I did hear about that was also legit was more, and you had to wait 6 months for them to find your leaf. And my experience was, I think they found my leaf in a week. And it was it moves along pretty quick. Which is great.
Yes. Yes.
Was yours about the same?
I think mine was about 2 weeks. But,
Yeah.
because I tell you what was interesting as well is when, and they don't guarantee that they can find it, right? But
You
as
get
soon,
money back if that happens.
yeah,
Just to make that clear.
yeah. But as soon as I was actually doing my thumbprints, and I took a photo and then sent the email to the guy that was kind of organizing, I just absolutely knew that they would find it, and I knew they'd find it within 2 weeks, and sure enough, that's what happened. And then we went from there, and set up the whole Zoom meeting. So it's been really profound from beginning to end, as I said, because I wasn't looking for it. It hadn't even kind of occurred
So
to me.
I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'd known about Nadi Leaf readings for well over 10 years. And ever since I'd heard about it, I go, oh, I want that. And I just didn't know where to go to get one that was legit. And then I heard about one online, and I was, a little, I'm not so sure. But then I, asked really good questions to the people that got in the readings. And so it's always about whether it's a medium, a psychic, or a Nadi Leaf reading, it should always be evidence-based. They should always know things that nobody should know, even if they Google you, even if they interview your friends. And of course, that's a lot of effort for them to go through to do that with so many people. But they had a bunch of those things in my reading that really, made me go, okay, this is legit. And I think especially, them getting your mom and dad's name, and in my case, 2 different name changes was also, definitely makes you go, okay, you guys have accessed something. And then they go into this reading, and it was really beautiful to me. But it doesn't call everyone, and I don't necessarily think there is a leaf for everyone. It's just if it speaks to you, and you feel that it's your time, then take the opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. And look, the thing as well is, I mean, I didn't know a whole lot about how the process worked, but, I'd read, I was sent a little bit of information just to kind of help prepare, but I was very mindful in the first phase to make sure I was not giving anything away. I was just sticking to the correct or wrong, kind of responses so that there couldn't be anything kind of like taken from what I was saying. Um, and even though that's all I said, the information that was given was again was just really very detailed and very personal, so that and it was clear that they couldn't have gone online to extract the information that they were sharing. I mean, I've got this stuff online about me, obviously, but the details of it and the personal kind of emphasis of it could not be found online for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things they knew on a spiritual, intimate level is they knew the year that my spiritual journey really accelerated. And
Yeah.
they said 2000, 2001, and then they kind of emphasized 2001. So I first get my knee healed without being touched in 2000. And then I meet a Qigong master after I graduate college in 2001 who awoke in my gift to do healing. And so they picked up on that. And I'd also had a really great astrologer in India do the same many years ago. So that was something where I thought that was that really made me go, oh wow. And they also knew about a major financial loss that I just had occur to me at that time when I got my reading, which you could have Googled me until this, you wouldn't have been able to find that. And they really dialed in on that, and they were emphasizing some of the next steps for me to take is to either learn Vedic astrology or to learn herbalism or Ayurveda, which are things that I am interested in, and I'm always trying to pick up little bits of information on. So that's something that they brought about. I have a good idea of a question. What were some, forget about I guess for the sake of evidence base for viewers, what were some of the short-term predictions? You already mentioned the dental work, but what were some of the shortest term predictions that you could look to coming up to see their accuracy within regards to future moments?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things they kept speaking about was writing and publishing and sharing more publicly. Again, they could have maybe, done a bit of research.
YouTube, yeah, of course, yeah.
But they were really specific about the importance of expanding the reach of that and how to go about doing it. And that had kind of been on my mind, but I wasn't quite sure, how to begin, or even if I should begin doing that. You know what I mean? So they were speaking about that, and then they said something that only Bhagavan Nityananda had said to me, which was about. They use the word guru. You are a guru. I wouldn't use that term at all because
you and I are purists. Until I can bilocate and raise people from the dead, I'm in my own estimation, I would not consider myself that either.
But anyway, that was their kind of terminology. And the thing is, Bhagavan Nityananda had said something very specific and very private, obviously private, that I hadn't shared, that spoke to that as well. And they used language that really mirrored the same kind of messaging that he had been giving me for quite a while. So, and again, you couldn't find this online. It was, I've never shared it online. And there were other examples of that as well. I think one of them I shared to you, where I forget what the term was that they used, that they said that there was a gift, there was a siddhi that I had been given.
Oh yeah.
And the siddhi related to speaking truth, and then it would manifest. And I've seen that, and I've seen that evidenced over the last several years. I've never shared or articulated it because it can sound like, bragging.
Yeah, I'm a super powerful being. Come
Right.
see me, and I will manifest you your mansion and your
Yes.
Rolls Royce and all
So,
the things that you hold dear in
yes.
modern materialism.
Yes. So, and I'd never kind of, I'd always honored it, and I'd always said that it's this flow of grace that moves through this, whatever this is. And obviously, it cannot be utilized from a personal perspective, but it is shown and it is made manifest through the vehicle of the work that is done with clients and with, with anybody who's ready to do the work. And then amazing things happen. So that's what they were speaking to. I had never been able to, I hadn't consciously been able to give a term to it because I didn't know there was a term. And I forget, I wish I could remember what it was now, but I can't. But is it Siddhi or something like that? I'd have to look it up. But they articulated it really clearly to the point that I really got it. And I said, oh my God, yes, this is what has been happening over the last, I don't know how many years, and through the grace of the Guru. So it's those kinds of things that have really become very evident after this Nadi Leaf reading. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, it is. I think we all read books, autobiography of a yogi and things like that, Dalai Lama's life. And there's always these, divine prophecies. And it kind of gives more people their own access to their own divine prophecy in their own life. And I think that's really cool and can be inspiring, especially if you're at a crossroads or going through a really hard time, kind of having that bigger view. And I would say when I got my reading, I was going through a harder time, definitely at a crossroads. Just a lot of stuff was going on in my life at that time. And yeah, I definitely, so I guess I'll share just some of the long-term predictions were very lofty that they made for me. Obviously I mentioned just being able to see the past, present, and future of everyone, myself included, is a very lofty prediction. And that we'll see that. I'm not dead yet. That'll take time. But some of the shorter term predictions that I'd like to share, just because we'll see if they're right.
Yeah.
Some not so positive that I'm working, not for me, but my dad was mentioned, and that he would have a major health issue that he'll need natural and Western intervention. And that would occur from, so my birthday was April. So your year starts on your birthday. So whenever they're giving these predictions, it's from birthday to birthday. So from April of this year to April of next year. And I'm doing, chanting all the mantras, doing everything in my power to make sure that, is mitigated or ideally doesn't occur. And then the other prediction was, now they said I would become famous. Now, what constitutes fame? These now you're getting it, and I even asked them about that, and they didn't specify, but they encouraged me to do YouTube, which I'm already doing. And once again, you say, well, they could, just to Google that, and to do a book. And I have a Google Doc, which I've been working on for a while. So those were the short term. Oh, and that a woman would be coming into my life, initially a friend, during this time frame as well. And haven't really been in a relationship in a while. So those would be the three very tangible short term predictions that have been made. And we're, what is it, April? So May, June, July. Yeah, we're about 3 months in, and there's 9 months left. So we shall see what occurs. But the other stuff was much further out down the line. So
Nice.
take some,
Yes.
but I just wanted to share that just because it's a tangible, okay, this is what we see coming in this, shorter period of time. And as you mentioned, unfortunately for you, they knew about some dental work that was coming.
And boy, was it some dental work.
Yeah, well, I think what's really funny also is when it comes to things, I find they downplay it, but if they bother to mention it, it's probably going to be something from our little selves that we'll consider somewhat significant. So if they ever say something like, oh, health will be a little bit disturbed, know that you're in for a ride.
It's
it's They seem to, I don't know if it's just the culture or if it's just a language thing, but when they say things, there will be a little bit of disturbance in health. With my Western thinking, I think, oh, like it's barely worth mentioning. And then I'll go through it and I go, oh, yeah, that was definitely something.
Yes,
So
yes. Well, as we were talking, I just pulled up, I was just talking about what they said to me, and he said it's the spiritual gift called Cityvak Vak Siddhi, which is about being able to speak and manifest
things
the
into existence.
yes, yes, yes. So obviously, I have to take care I'm saying the right thing. But I hadn't heard that term before, and it's really fascinating. But all of that said, everything we've shared really, hopefully, encourages viewers if they feel a resonance to explore Nadi Leaf readings because they can be really profound, very helpful, beneficial, and help you feel like you're not going crazy. What you're feeling and perceiving is accurate and on point.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah. I
that.
think I'm around I go to see a lot of yogis and saints. So I'm pretty frequently around people that have similar thinking along these things. So I don't feel that I experience as much of that. Oh, maybe I'm going crazy because everyone's on that
Sure.
wavelength that I interact with. But I think for a lot of people that are in places where that is not as physically available, I think that is really important. I certainly experienced more of that earlier in my journey.
Yes. Yeah. Well, for me, I was born into this kind of uh, world where these things are just kind of normal. And then I find out when I was really young that it's not so normal for everybody else.
Oh, how
So
old were you when you realized that it wasn't normal for your
I
other
well, I
others?
came into the world having psychic phenomenon, out of body experiences, visitations from angels, psychic phenomenon. I mean, that was the norm. And I
Yeah.
assumed that that was the case for everybody. And then I found out that it wasn't. So
How
then
old
I
were
had
you when you realized?
probably 7, 8, something like that. And then I think when I was, so then I learned to keep quiet. And then when I was around 14, I asked for I didn't even know what to call them, but I said, I just looked up to the sky and I said, this is too much responsibility. Please take it away. And so it was kind of like the lid was closed on it. And
Yeah.
then everything exploded. It was like Pandora's box opening up and magnified when, at the age of 33, when I had Shaktipat given to me in a lucid dream by Bhagavan Nityananda of Ganeshpuri. And it was suddenly like I came alive again. And then this phenomenon, this psychic phenomenon, the siddhis, everything just exploded. And again, for the most part, I really wasn't telling anybody about it. And actually, he told me not to say anything and just to contemplate and be quiet. But it just was a normal part of life. And things that were happening was light bulbs were shattering, fans were spinning, they weren't even plugged in. I mean, I would get these downloads about people and events that were absolutely on point. I'd have lucid dreams with visitations with Ananda Mayama, the Dalai
Oh,
Lama,
I love her.
being, um, and then have to integrate all of everything I'd been given. And then I was taught how to work energetically with people, how to move through dream time and work with, people who were suffering. So it was this huge kind of shift of consciousness that opened up and happened. Um, and it's just kind of the norm for me now. And the sadness I always feel is for people that do not have any connection at all with the mystery, with the magic, with the miraculous, because it must be a really very dry, very painful existence, I would think, especially if you believe the mind is who you are.
I think when you don't know any better or any different, I mean, I'm going to use a really worldly analogy, but if the only chocolate you've ever known is a Snickers bar, you don't know about like these like organic, raw, fudgy, whatever things. I mean, they've really dialed it in. And if you don't know, you don't know. So you're addicted to the tiny little worldly pleasures that keep you going. And obviously, you get further along and you go, oh my God, that's so heavy. That's not enough. That just seems so almost pointless. And everyone's karma is different, and everyone's done different work in different lifetimes that's put them in the position they're in right now to experience whatever it is that they experience.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying. I certainly at times wish my parents had a more spiritual seeker within them. There'll be little hints once in a while, but it's it's definitely on the back burner for them. And I feel, especially as you get older and you're closer approaching leaving the body and leaving this world, to not know who you are beyond your name and your body, to me that's a very daunting prospect.
Yes. I mean, I agree with you. At the same time, there's incredible pain around not knowing who you are, and you feel it. We feel this pain of separation. I mean, master yogis speak about it. They speak about this longing. We're born with this. Well, we come in knowing God, and then we kind of lose it as we become these individuals, and then we spend our lives looking for something that we think will bring us happiness. And the root of it is not knowing the self, and that's painful. And as we know, it doesn't matter how rich, famous, wealthy, well known you become, there's still like this hole.
Well,
This,
I think it almost gets worse. I mean, I have this idea that fame is materialistic enlightenment, because it's the thing that gives you access to all of the worldly desires that
mm-hmm.
you may have. And in a world that can be increasingly materialistic, fame, or for some people, they don't want the fame, they just want the money. But those things are sort of like a false enlightenment, like a fool's gold.
Yes,
And they're so shiny and they're so compelling, and every book and movie and song tends to refer to it, even the ones that refer to how it's lonely at the top. And it still doesn't stop the knee-jerk momentum of seeking this out. And it's instead of experiencing the cosmic love, let me just have people, the world, praise me. May,
mm-hmm.
may I get continuous praise and validation. And, I think everyone's on different levels of development, but at a certain point, validation is just a trap. Praise is just a trap. And,
Yes,
and it's at the same time, I see that it's important to give those things to people to keep them going. I still think it's necessary. But there's a point where you start to see, oh, I'm never going to say, oh, I've had enough validation, I'm going to stop here.
mm-hmm.
The ego never reaches that point. The egos never go, oh, well, this last month I got 200 compliments, so I'm good. I'm cutting myself off.
Yes,
It's just the endless. You never have enough,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
ever.
yeah. That's a human dilemma right there, and which is why social media can become so addictive, right? Phones become so addictive because there's always this need for validation, for likes, for comments, or whatever. Um,
And I think there's some for the likes and the comments, but I think especially when you're talking about deeper things, it's to engage with people that are looking for that.
mhm.
And I think right now the world is the world's always been chaotic, but we have constant videos reminding us, if you're online too much, of all the chaos,
Okay.
and not so much reminding you that right now there's nuns, monks, yogis, saints, shamans meditating in stillness and extreme peace. You don't see that news story. You don't
No,
get that on your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed unless you seek it out, unless you put it to the forefront of your life. you're not going to get that as well. And it's not to pretend that these other things don't exist, but it is to also realize that this other side exists and to commit to it and to commit to awaken, because this idea that we're going to magically chant something to end the war and the war is going to end is not looking at, yes, but what about the war in your own mind?
Yes.
And until we dissolve that war, these external wars are just going to keep going because they're a reflection of our internal chaos.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. I mean, that really sums it up, I think, more than anything. And yeah, what is uppermost in our mind is what we see, right? What we believe, what lands
That's
in.
why I think these conversations that we're having and that other people are having are so important, and they provide a hope for people, and they provide an awareness that the miraculous is still there. And though, going back to what we said earlier, the miracle is not the destination, but it is something, a carrot, the cosmic carrot at times to keep you going when the heaviness of the world seems too much.
Yes, beautiful. Very well said. So I think maybe we should wrap this conversation up there.
Yeah.
But you know, I think what would be great is why don't you speak about the carrot that keeps you going, which I would say is, from what I've seen, your YouTube channel, Spiritual Schmuck, which is
Yes.
fabulous. And I
Thank you.
really recommend anybody who's watching this to go check it out. It's really fun and really great. So would you like to say?
Yeah, there's 7 episodes of my adventure to Cuba. I unfortunately, my creative partner is going through some things in her life and has kind of stepped away. So I'm mostly just, I turn the phone on myself now and I give a quick take on something in the shorts. But the 7 videos are, well edited, narrated, a storyline of my adventure to go to Cuba to see a machete psychic surgeon, and just sort of the ideal of the show is to show miracles around the world in a very serious way, but also crack jokes, because especially from a Western lens, it's pretty funny to see and witness some of these things at times.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I was rewatching your episodes about going to Cuba, and I was laughing the same way I was laughing the first time.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to make people be able to experience this, even if they're not fully ready, and by providing a lot of humor.
Yeah, and also sharing these encounters that are authentic. It's not just all woo woo, crazy pretend stuff. It's happening.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's so difficult for people to conceive of. I mean, if you even think just in a tangible way, the way someone who has very little money lives their life, for someone who never grew up that way, it's not conceivable. For someone who grew up with a lot of money, the way they live their life, for someone that didn't have that, that's not conceivable. And I think just even in materialistic sense, it's very difficult for us to conceive of other things. And then when you get into the spiritual, I think a lot of times it doesn't feel rooted in something concrete for people.
Right.
Until they have the experience, until they get, they get a Nadi Leaf reading or a healing, or someone shows up and they just start looking at the world differently.
Yes, and it changes everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, going with that then opens other doors, which is the miraculous things that happen. Yeah. So wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, I'll have all the information in the show notes, as well as if people are interested, how to connect and set up a Nadi Leaf reading. That is recommended rather than just something that they find on the internet. So we'll have all that available.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. I always love chatting with you and hearing your experiences. And I could talk about Nadi Leaf readings for a long time.
Yes.
I find it a really interesting topic.
Me too. But thank you so much. It's been really, really great. I love having you on Talking True. And we can let's do it again. We'll plan to do something again.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As always, I really appreciate you spending time on Talking True. If you like this content, then please spread the word, because obviously the more views and more eyeballs we have on this channel, then the better it is for everybody. And we love sharing truth, and we love shining truth on the truth of who you are. So thank you once again. Be well, keep shining bright, and bye for now.